Richard Turner.
Richard Turner.
And looking with both eyes, I couldn't see how he did it.
Richard Turner, he does things that nobody else in the world can do with cars. Nobody.
I don't call myself blind because I see things in ways that other people can't see.
He's in the Hall of Fame at the Magic Castle.
Don't let anyone tell you there's anything you can't do.
Well, Shark, we're here again.
We are.
And guess what? I've got more questions.
You always have more questions.
I know. I'm a curious guy. First off, what is a rope ladder and when did you first see one?
A rope ladder was a very fun carnival hustle. I performed at the Agura Renaissance Fair back starting in 1972. Steve Terrell was our director, and we wrote original plays. And the Renaissance fairs, everything was Renaissance themed.
Well, how fun.
And they had a rope ladder there, and that was the first time I saw one. And just to describe what a rope ladder is, it's a ladder that's at this type of angle. Would you call that a 45-degree angle?
Yep.
45-degree angle, and it came to the top. It went like this, and then it came to the top, the two ropes, and then it had a single rope, and then at the end of it would be a parachute swivel.
Yeah.
And so it's like angled like this, so it comes to a triangle, single rope, parachute swivel here, come to a triangle, single rope, parachute swivel here. We had a 3-foot stake that we'd put in the ground here, and then had a T that would hold it, and it was staked in the ground there. So the idea was to climb it up then stay on top of it. But the thing is, because it's on two swivels, as soon as you step on it, boom, flip you right over.
So in other words, they made it really fair for when you try it.
Did we ever. So it's, as soon as you go to step on it, it would flip over.
I've seen these.
Yes.
That looks impossible.
So Steve Terrell, our director, a guy named Bob Yerkes, Y-E-R-K-E-S, a good buddy, and you know him.
I know Bobby.
Do you know Bobby? This was 51 years ago. Bobby was going to donate one to the Lambs Players, the theater company that I was with, because when we travel at the fairs, it was a way of adding revenue to our shows and stuff. So he was going to give us one because Steve and Bobby grew up in the entertainment business together for many, many years. So I was the one, because I was the most athletic.
Surprise.
Surprise, yeah, I was the nut, the martial artist, trainer, crazy, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was the one, and I was wiry and wiggly.
What do you mean you were? I think that's still the case.
Okay, that's still the case.
Especially
Very
with
good.
cards.
Good point. And so he set me up, and at that time, Bobby was running a fair. It was his circus, which was called Yerkes Circus.
I like it.
At the time, over 50 years ago. And I said, well, Bobby, what's the secret? He said, what's the secret to walking a tightrope? I said, I don't know. Practice. It's just practice. And so he said the idea is to stay on top. And go up there and ring the bell.
Right.
Okay, they had a little bell up there that you ring. I did it on the 4th time. Bobby said he's never had anybody learn it on the 4th time, or get to the top on the 4th time.
But was he really surprised? Because this shark just does crazy stuff all the time.
Yeah, but he didn't know me at that time.
I
was an 18-year-old little punk sent up by Steve Terrell.
So that was kind of your introduction.
That was my introduction to Bob.
He's like, I know now.
And from Bobby, at one point, I actually lived with him for a number of years. He has a whole circus in his backyard. That's where I worked with him when we helped train Stunts, the stuntman and stunts for all kinds of movies and shows. He's actually been in more movies and TV than anybody in history.
Wow.
Because he started his first movie in 1947 with Elizabeth Taylor. Somebody Misbehaves. I can't remember the name of the person. Somebody Misbehaves. And he has literally done thousands of movies and thousands of television shows. Bob Yerkes, and became Yerkes Circus, but and he had a whole circus in his backyard.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
You from the front yard, you see it all poking out the back. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's been there for 70 years. I've been there for over 50 years going there, so I don't know how long it was there before that.
So you're just getting started, essentially.
I was just getting started in 1972, Anyway, so Bob sends me up and he says, climb it. So I started climbing it. And
is that the thing that he taught you to swim up? Or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the
This
thing.
is the thing he taught you to
Swim up the ladder. Well, he said the secret is just do it.
Right.
So I started doing it. But the cool thing is I started creating gymnastics on the thing.
Oh, so you could do some shark tricks. And what were some of those?
Well, lots of shark tricks. Okay. Every other person that I saw do it at the fairs, they would climb up, flip over,
Yeah.
and fall down. All you had to do is climb up, ring the bell, and they could not climb back
And
down.
of course, you would think of crazy things to do, obviously.
Of course.
Yep.
Yep. Well, you know me too well. David and I have traveled the world together.
It's just normal
It's
for you
just
to
normal.
think of the craziest things.
Whatever's
Like, who
going to
would
be
think of that, the
offbeat,
shark?
that's me.
Yep.
So it's like this. So I would climb up it,
Right.
ring the bell, and I could climb down it. Okay.
Okay.
That was one thing.
Sounds normal.
Then I would have a Snickers bar in one hand and a Coke in the other.
Oh my gosh.
So as I'm climbing it, I'm taking a bite of my Snickers, take a sip of my Coke,
I've actually never heard of this one.
climb up, ring the bell, and climb back down, eating and drinking.
Wow.
And then we did it where Sherry Bishop was one of the girls that I trained how to climb it.
Right.
We have I would climb it, and she'd be climbing up behind me. I'd get all the way to the top, and I would ring it, and then she would ring it. Or Glenn Hansen, who was part of our troupe, I would climb it, he'd climb behind it, and so two of us together
Wow.
would ring it. But this was the most craziest one that I did.
Yeah.
Is I would climb it upside down.
Those weren't
Feet
crazy yet?
Yeah, this was the craziest one and the hardest one I ever did. I'd literally climb it feet first, go all the way up, feet first, take my little toe, ding, 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 ring the bell, and climb it down.
Wow.
Upside down. So that was probably the craziest one I ever did. And back then it was 50 cents a try,
Right.
or 3 tries for $1,
Right.
and you'd win $5. And the thing is, you know who our biggest suckers were?
What?
One guess. Athletes. These football players, basketball players, baseball players, gymnasts,
Yeah.
they thought, oh man, if this little hippie can do it,
Scrawny hippie.
I can do it.
Yeah.
And I would have people lined up 20, 30, 40,
Wow.
50 feet deep, just waving their dollar.
Suckers galore.
And you know what? I never paid out once.
I am not surprised.
But a cool thing is, over the years, I've gone to fairs and
Right.
stuff like Six Flags
Yeah.
over Texas,
Yeah.
and they'll have them there. And except then, or there, you'd win a stuffed animal.
And they didn't know who was coming.
And they did. And
They
the
didn't
thing
see
is,
that shark.
see, we had a rule.
Yeah.
You can only win once.
Right.
These other places, since the people that were running it couldn't even operate it or couldn't even do it,
Yeah.
there were times I would go in and I would give them my dollar, win this big giant stuffed bear, which
Right.
I had absolutely no use for, and I say, "Who wants another bear?" And here's another $1. Here's a bear for you.
You were a generous
Who wants
shark.
another bear? Here's $1. I would just sit
So
there. And
generous.
I'd give everybody
Yeah.
a bear while
That's
the person
funny.
that's running is going, "Oh my gosh, my boss is
gonna get
going to
fired."
kill me."
Yeah.
Because
kidding.
no one expected or even knew that someone that could actually climb the thing.
You know what? This makes sense in that this translated to cards because you can also do crazy things with cards that no one else can do.
Yeah.
So that kind of transitioned into that.
That was just
You
that
were prepping for it.
mentality
Yeah.
that I had. That
Yeah.
whatever was the norm out there, I had to kind of
Right.
take it steps beyond the norm.
Now let's talk about some close calls. Can you tell us about going to a play at Mesa College?
Now this one wasn't quite as much fun. I was in theater through high school. I was in my first play when I was 9 years old, and that was the only class that I really excelled in was drama. I love drama.
Not surprised.
And because I had interest in that. I had interest in art, but drama was the one I really had interest in. So, and I was warned, watch out for this guy that has been hanging around theaters. And there was a warning out. He was 35 years old, big guy with big bulging eyes, like he looks like he was crazy. And of course, you know me, I really didn't see that he had big bulgy eyes.
Right.
And he came up, and it was after one of our drama rehearsals in our theater.
So he came inside the theater.
No, outside.
Oh, outside.
He was outside,
Got it.
just hanging around, looking for someone to snatch. I'll use that word.
Gotcha. Ah.
And so it says, Rick, how would you like to go with me to Mesa College and watch the play The Life and Times of Dylan Thomas?
Wow.
And he said, I'll feed you. I'll buy you dinner.
Wow.
And at that time, I was always hungry.
Yeah.
I was always hungry.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, sure. So the next night,
Yeah.
he picks me up, and we go, and we buy a fast food place.
Yeah.
And we go to this place, and I should have got suspicious here, because we got into the place, and the people that owned the place were looking at me like I was something wrong with me. I was
Right.
weird.
Yeah.
And of course, this guy was like 2.5 times my size.
Right.
Like he was probably 200 pounds. I barely weighed 100 pounds, maybe
Right.
110. So, and then what was suspicious is to get into his place, he had a loft in the attic. He pulled down one of those things, and
Yeah.
those little set of steps
Oh my gosh.
came down. So we crawled up in there.
This is how horror movies start.
This was a horror movie.
Yeah.
And so we get in there, and he starts giving me wine. And of course, I wasn't a drinker, but he kept insisting, and I would drink a glass. He said, let me give you more. And I kept drinking while we're eating and drinking and drinking. And I got, because I was not an alcohol drinker,
Yeah.
I got really drunk.
Wow.
Okay. Then he rips his clothes off and starts ripping my clothes off. He's trying to rip my clothes off. I'm going, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And he kept calling me Bridget. He said, your name is Bridget. You're not Rick, you're Bridget. And I'm going, huh? I'm not Bridget. My name is not Bridget. And he ripped his clothes off, pulled me down on. He had 4 different black light beds, 4 different
Wow.
areas. So they obviously had orgies in there.
Right.
And so 4 separate places with 4 different beds, kind of sectioned off from each other.
Yeah.
So now I'm in a panic going, I better do something or I'm not gonna like how this play is gonna work its way out.
Yeah.
So since I was already sick, I'm not a drinker, guess what I did? Threw up on him.
You got the.
All of a sudden, I couldn't hold it. So I threw up on him.
Yeah.
And what did he do? He grabbed me, pulled me to bed number 2, shoved me in there, and I threw up again.
Right.
And then he took me, threw me, pulled me into bed number 3. And again, I gave him more of my dinner that he bought
Wow.
me. Threw up again, and I couldn't believe I still had more. Pulled me into bed number 4. I threw up again. So I threw up on all 4 of his little crypts, if
Right.
you would.
Yeah.
And he was so mad at me, he threw on his clothes, gave me mine, pushed down that little exit, went out, drove me back to the El Cajon High School parking lot, shoved me out of his car and drove away.
Wow.
Now, I'll tell you something. That's the play not worth seeing.
No.
No, I didn't like that. At least I came out okay, but it was a play I'd miss if I had the choice.
Now, you also had a mishap. You went from a bicycle to a motorcycle, and some druggies paid for it. What's that about?
Well, I give a little backstory. I could still ride a bicycle. And of course, everybody said I was nuts.
Right.
Because once again, we've explained this a dozen times already, but just picture you're driving with a hat in front of your face.
Right, yeah.
Wherever you look, there's a hat, blank. Out of the corner of the eye was a blur. That's how I navigated. So I'd always be looking like this or like this. And since I could ride a bicycle, and because I have a photographic memory, I know even today, I could tell you every bend, every stop sign, every light.
Wow.
And
That's
so
crazy because I don't have that for sure.
yeah, and so that was how I knew where I was going. And so I wanted a motorcycle. And we had this new guy called Sonny.
Yeah.
That's not his real name, but he was the biggest drug pusher in El Cajon at the time.
Right.
Him and another guy, I won't
Yeah.
leave his name off, he's probably still in jail.
Yeah.
And he started training at our karate school, our San Diego karate school. And before, he would always look down at me. I was little Rick,
Right.
I was this little runt.
Yeah.
And he was just condescending.
So
He
this
was
is pre-martial arts training.
this is back in high school.
Gotcha.
Now we're in martial arts.
Yeah.
Now so I've been training for about two years.
Yeah.
I was green belt.
Right.
Okay. And we're getting in there. And now Mr. Condescending, all of a sudden I'm taking him down. And I finally nailed him with a spinning heel hook, caught him right in the gut, folded him up. And he was going, instead of, hey, Rick, hey, little Rick, he goes, excuse me, Mr. Turner. And then he said, what do you say I sponsor you and we'll go up north to LA and we'll play some cards and we'll split the winnings. And I kind of wanted a motorcycle, and I knew I was going to play against druggies because that's what he was, and I had no problem whipping drug dealers. I had a hard time with drug dealers because my one guy tried to kill me with a hot shot. So I had no problem cheating drug dealers. So I said, okay. And a real quick little side story. As we were driving up there, all of a sudden the cars in front of us stopped. We're in a pickup. And all of a sudden he fishtails over, and I'm watching the car right here. Ew, stop 2 inches in front of me. I almost got killed. This is a little side story. But anyway, bottom line is, my cut was $650, okay? Which back then was a mass fortune. So I went to the Lemon Grove Honda dealer, and I wanted to buy a motorcycle. And of course, they looked at me like I was a little weird because I couldn't show them any license or anything, but I had cash in hand, so they were happy to do business with me. So I picked out a Honda 350.
Cash is king all the time.
Cash is king.
Doesn't matter how weird they think you are.
And this is what really got weird. Is I bought insurance for my bike, okay?
You're right.
But I couldn't think.
We had some renegades.
Renegade. Oh, catch those little guppies trying to get away.
I'm watching them.
So now it's time to sign the contract. And what really blew their mind is my ride had to put my hand on the line, say, sign right here. So I'm now signing the thing, and they're going, who is this guy we're selling a motorcycle to that he can't even see to sign?
This is legal for us to sell to this guy?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what really blew them away. But like you said, cash talks. And so that's how I got my first motorcycle.
Wow. So you bought the motorcycle, and can you tell us why you can't make a left turn?
When I would ride a bicycle, sometimes I'd literally have to make 6 right turns to get to my spot. Picture this, I'm in a corner. Across the street is the gas station. Okay, because I couldn't see far enough ahead if a car's coming the other direction. I could not make left turns. So I'd have to make a right turn, a right turn, a right turn, go past it, another right turn, another right turn, and then a right turn into the gas station or the 7-Eleven or whatever it was I was going to. So I'd literally have to go way out of my way when my destination was across the street. So anyway, I'm sitting there thinking, you know, if I can ride a bike, why not a motorcycle? So that's, you saw how I got my motorcycle. So now, I would, and I pretty much, where my theater company was in Spring Valley, a lot of hills, not a lot of traffic. So I'm traveling the back roads of Spring Valley, and like I said, I would never make a left turn, and I figured, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I think I'm just gonna make a left turn.
This is my chance.
Because I knew I needed to go that way instead of going up, and and circling around anyway. So I thought, save time. And so I decided I'd make a left turn. As soon as I made that left turn, out of the corner of my right eye, within 10 feet of me is a car coming probably about 20, 25 miles an hour, and I go, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. And I instantly hit my throttle, bam, and he clipped my tail light. And he never even hit his brakes. I could tell. It was so, who expected someone to just instantly pull out in front of him? And I went, whew, that was close.
You got a warm reception from 2 ladies.
I knew you were going to ask this one. Yes, like I said, I have a photographic memory. I'm driving down 2nd Street, and I knew the next light I was coming to was Greenfield. Wasn't quite as familiar with the area. But this is what I would do, how I try to determine if the next light I was coming to was red or green. Is I'd look off the corner to my right, and I would listen. And if I noticed those cars were slowing down, then I knew they were coming up to a red light. If I noticed that their speed was the same, it was a green light that I was coming up to. Now, how's that for?
It doesn't sound sketchy at all.
No, not sketchy in the slightest. So, because I could only go one side or the other, I'm looking off to the left. I see they're slowing down. But what I did not see was to the right. Parked at the light was were those Datsun pickups.
Yeah.
And back then they had those bumpers that would stick out about 12 inches and about 3 or 4 or 5 inches thick. You know which ones I'm talking about?
Sounds like nothing bad's gonna happen with that.
No, and I drove my right shin right into that bumper.
And it didn't break?
Oh, no, but what happened was my bike shot out from under me.
Wow.
I hit the ground. I'm grabbing my leg, screaming.
Yeah.
And 2 old ladies jump out of the truck going, "What are you doing? You should have been wearing a helmet. You could have been killed. You could have been killed." And I'm holding my leg. "Lady, it's my shin, lady. It's my shin. You should have been wearing a helmet. You should have been wearing a helmet." And I'm going, "Lady, it's my shin. Who wears a helmet on their shin?" And they just kept screaming at
What
me.
a warm reception.
Warm reception. And finally, I slowly stood my bike up and putted away.
Now, as nice as those ladies were, you actually had some arch nemesis in the form of construction workers. What's the story there?
Well, because like I said, I could tell every turn, every stop sign, every light. What I could not anticipate were the construction workers. I just finished my workout at Fisher's Gym, and I backed out. I'm going up Troy Street, and I'm going up this hill. And as I'm going, all of a sudden, I see, those little easel-shaped signs and they have flashers on them. Road markers. And all of a sudden, out of the left corner, I see this flashing light. I go, "Oh my God!" It instantly registered in my mind. And the second I saw this one out of the corner of this one, I see one over here.
Right.
I'm going, "Oh my God!" I went in between them, and I actually thought at that moment, I thought, I'm so lucky that I went right in between both of them.
Yeah.
Bam! Into a third one right in front of me. My bike flipped over. I went flying off my bike, and I did what I learned from Mr. Murphy, my sensei Murphy.
Yeah.
Like when you're getting flipped. So I tucked and rolled, and my long hair's just pulling out on the street.
Yeah.
And I finally came to a stop. My bike stalled. I stumble up, and I'm kind of dazed. And these construction guys are going, "Do you run over everything that doesn't get out of your way?" And so I started my bike, and I started to putt away. But I had to look at it from their point of view.
Yeah.
Here they're watching this guy. Here's their thing. Just watching him. Boom!
Yeah.
Like they expected it to magically disappear, because they didn't know I couldn't see it.
Right.
So from their point of view, they had to look at me like, "Is he on a kamikaze course? Why is he going to run into our construction sign rather into a 18-wheeler?"
Are you sure that you're alive? Is this a ghost I'm talking to? You should be dead.
Well, yeah. That was my 9th life.
Wow.
I had 0 more. That was 9 lives.
What was your, with all this riding, what was your solution to riding a bike with bat-like vision? I mean, you're hitting a lot of stuff, so there's got to be some solution you thought of.
Well, I would have a lot of stories about that. A couple times, I'd date girls, because I like girls.
Oh, okay.
And I remember one girl, and I knew the road, and I knew I should have made a turn, and I did not make that turn, and fortunately there was not a car coming the other direction, because I would have crossed right in front of it. Now I came to this place where I had to make a left turn, and I was in total panic, and I just took a shot at it, and she didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Then towards the end, I'm coming back into the city, and I happened to say, "Is that light happen to be red or green?" And that's when it crossed her mind. "Are you telling me you can't tell if that's light's red or green?" And she realized, I better get off this bike right now.
Yeah.
And then I had another girlfriend I dated, Barb Price. And she still today has a scar on a part of her leg from a little dump that we took.
Minor fender bender?
Minor fender bender.
Wow.
And Jim Blowers, my buddy, you saw him in the movie Dealt. He's the one that said, "He did things he really shouldn't ought to done." Remember that? He did things he really shouldn't ought to done.
That's an understatement, I think. I think that's an understatement.
But he would ride with me a lot of times, and Zoe, and he would navigate. But the funniest one was my auto mechanic. I had a Volkswagen Squareback as a car, and then I had my motorcycle. But he was an auto mechanic, and he was probably 200 pounds, 6 foot, big, strong guy, but he's deaf as a post. He could not hear anything, but he could read lips really well. And we were driving west on Lemon Grove Boulevard. And we didn't know a Winchell's donut shop had just been robbed. And we fit the profile of the robbers to a T, down to my long blonde hair, and he wore a green pea coat.
Of course.
And so the robbers had a pea coat, one had a pea coat, one had long blonde hair.
Of course.
The sirens are blasting, and he's going, "Hey, it's a cop, it's a cop." And so, and of course, I heard the sound. I couldn't see the cop, but I could hear the noise.
Yeah.
And so I pulled over, and he said, "Boys, get away from that bike, and I mean right now, and put your hands up."
Yeah.
And so we put our hands up,
Yeah.
and he comes over to me and says, "I want to see your license right now." And because I was the driver.
Yeah.
I didn't have a license.
Yeah.
So I handed him, I did a little magic misdirection. I handed him my insurance. That I had insurance on a bike.
Yeah.
That when you think about it, if I got in an accident,
Yeah.
would the insurance company have paid having a person pay for insurance that
Right.
didn't have a license? I bet I bought something that was useless.
Yeah, because if
But
they don't have to pay, they
if they said, "You shouldn't have been riding that bike
Yeah.
to begin with, we're not paying."
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had my insurance card. So now he gets Roy's ID.
Yeah.
And of course, Roy's ID says that he's deaf.
Right.
And he goes, "It says here that you're deaf. Is that right?" And of course, Roy could read lips perfectly.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yes, sir." And then he turns back to me and says, "I want your license and I want it right now." And of course, I had only one other choice. Pull up my ID card.
I thought you were going to pull your deck of cards.
Yeah,
Three-card
it was a card, all right,
Yeah.
but it was an ID card because I had to have an identification card, and that identification card said on it, "Not a valid driver's license, blind."
And big bold letters.
In big bold letters with
Yeah.
a big giant red thing going, "Not a valid driver's license." And I thought, okay, and he goes, "It says here you're blind, huh? And you're deaf, huh?" He says, "I don't believe either of you. You're both going to jail for riding that donut, robbing that donut." So he goes back to his car. He calls in to tell him that he caught the perpetrators. And whatever he heard, we don't know.
Yeah.
You're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
You got the wrong guys.
Right.
And so he comes back still trying to maintain his dominance.
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, boys, obviously it wasn't you, but I have to tell you, you're not allowed to drive a motorcycle if you're blind. So I'm writing you a ticket for driving while blind. Now get out of here." So he let a visually impaired man get back on a motorcycle with my deaf navigator, and we drove away.
Shark, who was Big Princess?
Ooh, now that's a scary. Big Princess. Jim Blower was my chauffeur.
Yeah.
Okay, and I had a couple of vehicles, and back then we always carried a gallon gas can in your cars, just standard, and especially with Jim, who tended to forget to fill up the tank. So we're going down, I think it was Washington Street in El Cajon, and run out of gas.
Yeah, of course you
Oh, Jim. So we got out of the car, and I'm dressed in my riverboat gambler outfit,
Right.
'cause I came from a show.
Oh, this is a great start.
Yeah, a great start. So we're walking. I knew where we had to get to a gas station. This car pulls over. There's one of those little pickups with those shells on it.
Yeah.
With the hatch that
Yep.
opens up like this, that tailgate that comes down. And the guy says, "Hey, you guys want to ride to the gas station?" So you can see us carrying the gas station. We said, "Sure, please, thank you." So we get in the car, and it's him and I assume his wife.
Yeah.
So now we're going down Washington Street, and he's literally flooring the gas pedal. And because of my photographic memory and just knowing every quarter of a mile is a light, and he's going way too fast, and so I couldn't see the light, but I say, "Is that light red or green?" All of a sudden he'd register, it's a red light, we'd come to a screech, and then zips off again. "Is that light red or green?" Probably 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
If I wouldn't have said something, we would have went zooming through a red light and probably ran right into cross traffic.
What the heck?
So now we get to the gas station. Now, once again, we are pinned in this pickup, okay?
Right.
Is with a hatch.
Yeah.
So, and it had one of those little boots that you could, talk through
Yeah.
on the other side. And Jim's in first, and I'm
Yep.
towards the back. So we get to the gas station. He opens up the hatch, doesn't let us out. I want out now.
Yeah.
I want away from
Yeah,
this
no
guy.
kidding.
But he did not let us out. He said, "Give me the gas can." So he took the gas can, put a gallon of gas on it. We gave him a quarter, and put it back in there.
Yeah.
And he closed the hatch.
Yeah.
Now we're driving back to our car. Now he switches places. His wife is driving, and he's sitting. He goes, and Jim's in the front with that little boot thing.
Yeah.
He goes, "Let me introduce you to little Princess."
Oh my gosh.
And he holds up this little kitten. And he goes, "This is little Princess." And Jim's close up. He reaches through that little boot and pets little Princess. And then he puts the cat down. He says, "Now let me introduce you to Big Princess." Pulls out this big gun, and he tells his wife, "I think we should kill him." And we're going, "What?" And she said, "Put that gun away." And she says, "No, I think we need to kill him." And he's arguing with her, and obviously she was the dominant, and she would say, "Whatever, put that darn gun away." And she'd slap it down, and he kept insisting he wanted to blow us apart. And finally, she won, obviously the dominating person in that particular relationship. And I'm sitting there going, "How are we getting out of this mess?" So finally,
This is like a scene from Pulp Fiction.
yeah, exactly.
Stuff
Except
like this
there was no
happened.
fiction.
Yeah, this is the real deal.
Yeah. And so we pull up behind my car.
Yeah.
And we get out and we we had a little funnel, poured the gas in
Yeah.
there, and he says, "We'll follow behind you to make sure you get to the gas station safe and sound."
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. And as soon as we got in that car, I said, "Jim, floor it at the first street, turn left. I want to lose this guy's tail right away." So we floored that car before that guy had a chance to get back in his and follow us, turn left, and that was Big Princess.
Wow. So that was a shark swimming in a sense. I mean, sharks are great swimmers in the ocean, on land, obviously, but I never knew a shark with a lifeguard certification. Tell us about that.
This is funny. And once again, see, I have to admire you. We're asking questions that I don't get. You've all heard the same old darn questions 1,000 times, my
I
friends.
haven't heard a lot of these stories.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
No, we're not going to kill this one. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad you're asking some different questions.
The four beds with the vomit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah.
You could make a whole horror movie.
It
based
was
on
a
that
horror
story.
movie, and I think that guy was a horror.
Yeah.
You didn't even know you stepped into that one.
No.
So anyway,
Lifeguard certification.
lifeguard certification.
Yes.
I had a friend that was a girl named Donna Snodgrass.
What a name.
What a name, Snodgrass, yes. But she was a nice girl. She wanted to get her lifeguard certification. And because I was in the martial arts, and I would swim a mile a day.
Right.
Average, and my pool was 146.6 laps. 146 laps plus 6 inches equal a mile.
Oh, wow.
And I did that every day because our pool wasn't that big. And I said, "I'll do it with you." So now we had a trick going on here. Magic trick.
Right.
I had to somehow not let this guy know that I am taking getting a lifeguard certification with somebody who can't see the people he's going to rescue.
Yeah, your normal routine.
My normal
Driver's
routine.
license, car license.
Exactly. So as we would go through the whole thing, and of course they had one of those big giant Olympic pools that we'd practice in, and we had a trick. Of course, when it came to written stuff, I said I only. This is really tacky. I said I only read German, as if, and so she'd have to write down my questions for me, and so he bought that one. And then when it came to rescuing somebody, which we did constantly, she'd stand behind me and said, 11 o'clock, 30 feet. In other words, that's where my person is that's pretending they're drowning, and I'd have to go out and save them.
Right.
And of course, that was part of my cue. And of course, the other part is they're pretending that they're drowning. So I had that, that audio cue as well, so I could hear them. And I'd go up there and grab them, flip them around, put them in a cross-chest carry, and take them back. But anyway, I went through the whole thing and got a 3-year certification as a lifeguard when I wouldn't even be able to see the person out there that I'm supposed to save.
Speaking of that, you did save a drowning guppy, though.
That is true.
What is that about?
About a year later, a guy named Kevin Epperson, he grew up on the same street I grew up on, Naranko. We got a ride out in California to one of the islands, and I said, let's swim back, because I was a master swimmer. I was a really good swimmer. I said, let's swim back. And he had one of those 4-foot little belly boards. At first he was reluctant, and he goes, oh, okay. And so I'm breaststroking out while he's paddleboarding. This big wave comes in and knocks the belly board out from under him, and he totally lost it. And of course, I can't see to find it. And what does he do? He throws his arms around me and grabs me and says, I can't swim. He said he didn't know how to swim. He didn't tell me that before. So he's sitting there trying to use me as his buoy. And of course, let's go both drown together. Right. And of course, in my lifeguard training, I knew the best thing to do. Where did they not want to go? In the water. Right. Took a big breath, and I went down. He's not going to follow me down. That's what he did not want. So I went down, turned him around. I put him in what's called a cross-chest carry. And then I would reverse scissor stroke as I side stroked him back to safety, and we made it, and we're both here to say we're still alive.
Wow. And so that must have been an adrenaline rush. Can you tell us about some of your other adrenaline rushes? Sounds like you're an adrenaline junkie.
I was with a guy named Dennis Thompson.
Yeah.
And so now we're going into the cliffs, and we come into this tide pool, and it was about 8-10 foot high cliffs where the water came rushing in a big giant circle like a whirlpool.
I know.
And I thought, I wonder what it would be like to swim in a whirlpool. That
great
looks
idea.
like fun.
What a great idea.
Oh my gosh, yes, tell me about it. So I said, Dennis, stand back. I dove into the darn whirlpool. I get in there and I realized I was in big time trouble.
You realize they don't call it a whirlpool for nothing.
Yeah, and you know why?
Huh.
Because as the water comes in, I'm trying to swim to the shore, and the water would come in, it would hit the cliffs, bank off, and push you right back out.
Sounds fun.
So you're literally getting hit from sometimes 2 and 3 directions at the same time. So I'd get in there, I'd get next to the thing, a wave comes in, hits the thing, pushes me right back out. And so I was trapped, and I was kicking and struggling and swiping and swimming and using everything I could to get there. And I'd get there, hit another one, pushed right back out again, and the water was filling my mouth. I was a lot of saline solution going down that gullet, and I'm going, I am in trouble. And it was just pure will, and I kept struggling, and finally, and Dennis couldn't do anything because he's 10 foot up on the cliff there. So I finally got to the edge, and I got a hold of a barnacle-crusted piece of the cliff, and I grabbed a hold of that thing. I held onto that thing, and then I got knocked away. I got up there again. I got a hold of it again. This time I wasn't going to let go. I slowly worked my way on where I got my foot, and I slowly climbed up, and then Dennis grabbed me and pulled me away from another almost disaster.
Shark, what is flagging? I am almost afraid to ask.
This one's not so bad.
Okay.
Flagging was a way of holding your body out parallel to the ground.
Oh, okay. It's like a calisthenics.
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
thing.
That's exactly what it is. But the thing is, when I flagged, I didn't just flag on low ground. Whenever there was a flagpole, I would climb as high as I could up on that flagpole, depending on its strength.
Yeah.
And then I'd get myself in a position, and I'd muscle myself out parallel to the ground.
Wow.
And the funnest one, whenever I would be on balconies on high rises, sometimes they would have poles on those balconies, and anchored very securely, and those were my favorite. And the highest flag I ever did was over a 10-story building. So people down below are looking at this guy held out over the edge with nothing below.
Wow.
It's a human flag. and then you actually I have pictures, and you'll see it.
Wow.
Where I'm flagging on a sailboat. My friend Jerry Ledgerton had this beautiful yacht, and I'm flagging out. I'm the flag on his yacht. So they go, that's the country of Turner?
Shark?
Shark?
In there?
Yes,
Now-
not American.
Now, what do you think is safer, that or cliff diving shark? Is a cliff diving shark more dangerous or less dangerous?
Oh, that was more dangerous. I had to do these things because, I had fears as a kid, and these were my ways of overcoming my fears of being a coward. So whenever there was some kind of a challenge,
Yeah.
I had to take it, smart or not smart. In
Right.
most cases, as you can tell already, not so smart.
I'm actually pretty surprised you're not a ghost right now. I am.
I'm invisible blue ink.
Oh, that's
We
yeah,
talked
that's
about
true.
that earlier.
Yep, that's
yes.
true. So you're
So
part
I'm
ghost.
the invisible human ink. So we went to the cliff, the cliff diving area, and there's a guy standing there waiting to dive, and
Yeah.
I was afraid I was going to lose my guts, so I'm waiting. I'm going, come on, guy, are you going to jump or are you going to stand there?
Right.
Finally, I said, are you going to jump or can I hop in front of you? He said, sure, but you have to time it just right. He said, you have to make sure you catch that wave as it's coming in when you hit the water.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what he was saying.
Okay,
So I just said, move
details.
aside,
Yeah.
right? I did a swan dive, did a pike, down, okay?
Perfect landing?
Perfect landing, all right. Here's what it looked like. Here's the bottom of the ocean,
Yeah.
okay? It was slanted like this going up the cliff, okay? And as the water would come in like this, you had higher water level to land in,
Plenty
okay?
of cushion.
Yes. And as I'm coming in, the water's going down. So I hit impact, probably about 4 feet of water. And it was at an angle like this. So I just went in there, bam, and ripped my face off.
Wow.
And I hit that rock. And when I hit it, I thought, I am in trouble. It was literally almost a subconscious thought that I'm going, if I don't do something, I'm going to be slammed against the cliffs and killed and drowned. And so just something deep in my being said, fight, start swimming,
Yeah.
or you're going to die.
Right.
So I came up, and like I said, I'm totally dazed, and I start breaststroking because I was a good swimmer.
Yeah.
And then I came to a big pile of seaweed.
Yeah.
And of course, fortunately, I learned in my life-saving class, when you come to seaweed, you don't fight it. You make soft, even moves, otherwise you'll get tangled up in it.
I'm going to remember that.
So I very slowly worked my way, and I had 2 people with us, Jim Blowers and this guy named Jerry,
Yeah.
who was not the brightest guy, I would say, at least not at this point. So I'm swimming. I knew I had to get back to the shore where it came up, from the cliff that jetted out to where you could swim in. And I'm swimming in. He's going, come on, Rick, I'll save you, I'll save you. And I'm breaststroking. And then I swim right back. He goes, come back, Rick, I'll save you. I swam by the guy. He's telling me to swim back to him so he could save me. I'm going, what an idiot. He's almost as stupid as I was jumping off the cliff.
No kidding.
So I got to shore, and now everybody's looking at me.
Yeah.
The only thing you could see were my eyes.
Yeah.
Everything was solid blood.
You were a sea monster,
No,
essentially.
see, I looked like something out of a horror film.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a sea monster, all right. You could see the monster.
Yeah.
Well, at least you could see the eyes on the sea monster. So everybody's coming up and they all want to touch me. They all want to say, are you all right? I wouldn't let anybody touch me.
Yeah.
Stay away from me. And of course, I'm still kind of in a daze and
Yeah.
looking like something out of a horror film as we're walking down, and we went to a place called The Black, which was a psychedelic shop. I said, I want to get some jasmine sniffing powder.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? Yeah. I mean, you're solid blood.
Yeah.
2 little blue eyes.
Yeah.
And blue and red look nice together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look nice together. Yeah.
Good contrast.
Yeah, and then with the white, so I was red, white, and blue.
Oh,
Very patriotic. You got it. Very patriotic. So I'm a walking billboard for patriotism. So I go into The Black. I buy this jasmine sniffing powder, and what that is for is you sniff it. It makes you sneeze. It purposely makes you sneeze.
I see.
And so I was sniffing it, and I was literally shooting blood everywhere I sneezed. And then because that that reaction of sneezing, that blood would just shoot out, and so I was sneezing blood all over the place. And then when I thought about it further, I thought, next time I'm going to think twice about when I jump, and I think I would change the jasmine to the cherry flavored. I couldn't make up my mind next time. I'm going to get the cherry flavored.
In your
sniffing
case,
powder.
of course there'd be a next time.
Yes, of
Now,
course.
this wasn't the next time with the cliff, but I hear that you did wrestle a 7-foot shark.
Well, not intentionally, but yes. One of our favorite things was shark hunting. And we shark hunted because you get a lot of meat that we would donate to different 501c3s because one shark would feed a lot of people, and including me, because I love shark meat, because there's no bones, one big giant cartilage down, so there's just shark steaks. So I'm out with Randy Dick in his 17-foot Boston Whaler, and we would go out off the coast of San Diego to the south. It was called, in Mexican waters, we'd go about 5 miles past what was called 9 Mile Island. And we would always have, we'd go to the slaughterhouse and get like 300 pounds of red snapper heads and guts. And some of it we would chew up, some we would take to the Marie Callender's. They didn't know this at the time, but we had connections to get in, and off hours, we'd take it to the Marie Callender's meat grinder, chopped up the meat. And
I'm sure they appreciated that when they came in the next day.
Yeah, well, they didn't know about it.
Yeah, okay.
And one of the guys was one of the managers, and that's how we were able to do it. We'd sneak it off hours.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going out 9 Mile Island, and we get out there, and I'm the pole guy. And so we took some red snapper heads and guts, had this cotton rope, and we tied it to the jaws of the guts, and we just have it sitting off the bow of, the stern of the boat to attract sharks.
Right.
You know, just had it floating there. And then we'd have all this chum, 300 pounds of chum, and we'd just start throwing that in the water. And then we'd always go to the slaughterhouse and we'd give them a free Marie Callender's pie, and we'd get like 20 gallons of blood, real blood. And then our backup was blood meal that they'd use for nurseries. You know, you get mixed water and you have blood. So I'd start pouring the blood in the water and throwing the chum in there. And I had my pole. I was a pole person. It took 3 people to land 1 shark. So I was the pole guy because I was the best at hooking those babies. And I had, it was a small marlin pole with a 120-pound line and 120-pound line and a 140-pound steel leader that was about 12 feet long, because sometimes we'd catch these stingrays. And we've caught stingrays with a wingspan the width of our truck. That's a big stingray. And we catch them, and as soon as we get a stingray, the first thing you do is step on their tail and cut off their tail.
Right.
And stingray has good meat in it. The meat is in their wing, and you'd slice it down, like you'd flay it down, and then you skin it off the bone, because it's all bone. And then you go on the underside, and wasn't quite as good, but you get, it was like a cross between beef and fish. Stingray meat. So it was very good. Yeah, it was very good. But anyway, so that's why we had the leaders, because if you catch a stingray, they were so smart, they'd take their tail and wrap around the line and snap it.
Oh, wow.
But they couldn't snap the steel.
Yeah.
The steel leader. So that's why we had, I wasn't going to lose one of my babies.
No.
I was not going to put a 10-pound line on there and try to catch a 150-pound fish. Now we're chumming, and then this big giant 9 to 10-foot tiger shark comes up, starts circling our boat. We're going, look at that baby, come on. And I had my line in the water, and I had usually a foot-long mackerel hooked onto my hook. That was my bait, was a full mackerel. And I'm going, grab that mackerel, little boy. It's tasty. Grab my little mackerel. And he swam around, sniffed our red snapper heads and guts, sniffed our chum and our blood, looked at that mackerel, and our deli was not good enough for him. Turned up his nose and swam away.
What uppity shark.
That's exactly. He was an uppity shark. Snobby shark, tiger shark. So just remember, tiger sharks are snobby. So all of a sudden, my line is zipping away because we just watched this game. Watched this guy go away. I grabbed my line and got one. So I'm pulling. It takes about 10, 15 minutes to get one in.
Oh, wow.
And then the last part, and I always had gloves on to protect my card dealing hands.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I had gloves on. And the last 12 feet, you have to pull in by hand.
Right.
Because that steel leader would not go through the eye of the pole.
Wow.
So the last part, I'm doing like this. I'm actually pulling it in by hand.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is to gaff the darn shark because their hide is so tough and they're wiggling so much that it's really hard to gaff the babies. So I was the pole person, I'm holding it. We had the gaffer, and then Randy had a 18-inch barrel shotgun with 1-ounce slugs, and he would shoot it.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm holding it,
Yeah.
and I said, let's see what happens if we just shoot it, instead of trying to gaff that darn thing, because we had a heck of a time gaffing it. So he shot it, literally blew it in half, just like the movie Jaws.
Wow.
Both halves, just all the blood came swooshing up as it slowly sunk.
That's crazy.
I thought, well, that wasn't such a bad idea. At that very moment, all of a sudden, there's this 7-footer chomping on those red snapper heads and guts that are tied onto the stern of our boat.
Right.
So Gaffer grabs that line, he pulls it in, and takes the gaff and gaffs it in the head.
Yeah.
Okay? And I said, don't let him go.
Yeah.
And don't shoot him this time. Wait till, and I said, if I get a noose around his tail, he won't get away. This is the biggest shark we caught.
Wow.
Everything we were catching were between 4 and 5 feet.
Wow.
This one was a good 7-footer. And so I thought, I'm safe if I got my arm in there, got him in the arm lock, and I put a noose around his tail, and he wouldn't be able to get away.
Yeah. Great idea.
Call me smart. Yes, call me smart.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very
Smart
smart.
shark.
So I grab a hold of that thing, and I'm going, oh, first of all, I gotta say, Randy did put a bullet in it.
Yeah.
But because he didn't want to take a chance of losing it or taking a chance of Gaffer holding it, he put it towards the end. So the shark is still wiggling around.
Yeah.
But it slowed him down a bit. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm safe because he's got him by the head. So I'm sitting there muscling this baby, and I thought, I have bitten off more than I can chew. I was very surprised at how strong that darn thing was. So I don't know how many minutes it was, but it felt like it was 5 to 8 minutes. And I was sitting there wrestling with one arm, and I had this rope on this other hand. I'm sitting there trying to put a noose, and finally I got a noose around his tail.
Yeah.
And then we flopped him in the back of the boat.
Wow.
Now, mind you, this is just a 17-foot Boston whaler.
Right.
Not a big boat. So we get him in the back. And guess what he decides to do?
He lets you kill him.
No.
Oh.
You can't kill a shark once it's on the boat, at least not with a gun.
I see.
You know why?
Why's that?
You blow a hole in the bottom of your boat.
Oh.
Yeah, sink.
Makes sense.
So that's not, exactly.
Not a good idea.
So that darn shark is back there.
Yeah.
His mouth is going like this,
Yeah.
chomp, 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 right by the gas lines.
Yeah.
Because it's an outboard motor.
What a perfect spot.
Yeah, and so Randy goes, if somebody doesn't get in there and stop that guy, we're going to be paddling home. And we're 17 miles out in the middle of the ocean. Oh. No radio.
Yeah.
I insisted on no radios because I thought it was more exciting. If we're going down one way, eaten by sharks. So I always, yes, okay, let's confess.
Yeah.
The guy's a little twisted. So we never had a radio. And so I said, give me my bat. And we always brought a softball bat.
Yeah.
Because they're about twice the size of a baseball bat, because for the softball, they had bigger balls. And so I took my softball bat, I jumped in the back with that shot, and I was going, down boy, down boy. I says heel, I says heel. I was pretending I was an old Southern minister. Heel boy, I says heel. And so he slowly calmed down, stopped chomping his jaw. 5 minutes later, didn't learn his lesson the first time. Give me my bat back. I jumped back in that boat, and I started paddling on his head. I says, heel, heel. And finally, when their eyes pop out, that's usually when they're dead. And his eyes popped out, and he gave us no more trouble.
Wow.
And people, as I said, always want to know, what do you do with all that meat?
Yeah.
And that one shark had to have fed dozens, because we would donate the meat to different organizations. I won't mention them now, but they loved it when we came in and said, here's another 200 pounds of fresh meat for your people.
And on that note, I think that's a good way to end this episode.
I think it was a good shark adventure. Shark tales that happen to be true.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
This is a focused break, 3 boards with an under punch. This is a 3-board reverse punch with large boards. This is a shoot or strike with 2 boards, speed break, holding myself.